Welcome to Groovy and Grails webinar series from jpassion.com. Today's topic is GSP, Groovy Server Pages. So let's start with the presentation. So these are the set of topics that we are going to cover. So we will cover GSP Basics. We have actually used GSP already in several of our sample applications so far, so you probably have a reasonably good idea what GSP is all about. We're going to spend some time learning several GSP tags and templates, and we'll see how we can use layout, and then we will see how we can create custom tags. It's very simple to create custom tags in Grails. And we'll talk about static resources management plugin, and then we will see how we can use AJAX calls. All right, so GSP Basics, as we learned before, GSP is a view technology for Grails framework, and it is designed for people who have been using GSP, but it's a lot more flexible and intuitive than JSP. GSP pages live in the views directory, just under the name of the controller, as we have seen before. And then you can use you can actually render those GSP pages using render command. Like you can specify view, and then it's going to display index.gsp page. Again, these are the things that we have already learned. So GSP pages typically mix up markups and GSP tags, as we know. So the model is passed from the controller to GSP pages. And so this is an example in an action of the controller. So basically you are passing a book object instance. And this book object instance can be used in GSP pages like this. So again, we have seen many examples of this already. All right, so GSP expression. So GSP expression is like a GSP expression, and you can use the $sign and then brace, and these things will be evaluated. All right, so let's move on to GSP tags. So there are many GSP tags, and we can actually go over only a subset of those. So first, setting a variable, and also how you can specify a scope when you set a variable. So the way that you can set a variable is G. By the way, the G is the prefix for Grails tags. G set, and you're setting a variable called a var with a value of this. So this is evaluated. This expression is evaluated and is set a now variable with a value. This one we're actually setting my HTML variable with this. Of course, this gets evaluated, and the result of this will be set to my HTML variable. You can set a variable in a various scopes. So here, so we have a page request, flash, and session and application scope, as we learned before last week, actually 2 weeks ago. And you can specify where that particular variable will be maintained using scope attributes. So in this case, this now variable will be maintained in request scope instead of page scope, which is default. Logic and iteration. So that is if, else, each, and while. So the syntax is relatively straightforward. So here again, this expression gets evaluated, and if it is true, then this gets executed. And else, so this is an if and else. You can use each and while. Okay? So for each of this, and you are going to display this paragraph, and here, same thing. All right, search and filter. So if you have a collection of objects, you can use find all or even grab to perform search on the inside the JSP pages. So here, basically, among these books, so this is the collection of books object, and then we are going to use this expression to check whether, so this is going to find only the book instances whose author is Mary Jones. And then for that particular book, this will be displayed. So here you can also use a filter class. So we're going to actually cover, we're going to learn filter. We actually learned interceptor, controller interceptor 2 weeks ago when we cover controller part 1. Controller part 2 next week, we are going to learn how to create a filter. So you can specify filter class here as well. And you can even actually specify a regular expression using filter attribute. Form, so obviously form is very important. So you can use a form, the tag, and name of the form, and this is where this form will be submitted to. So in this case, it's going to be submitted to save action of book controller. And inside a form, you can have many fields. So text field, password field, checkbox, radio, and a hidden field, select, and then you can actually submit button as well. So these are something that you can use inside a form. Resource. So you can use a resource tag to specify your resource, any resource such as the CSS file, JavaScript, and images, and things like that. However, from Grails 2.0, usage of resources plugin, which actually provides very comprehensive static resource management, is actually recommended. So instead of using G-resource tag, it's recommended that you use resources plugin, and we're going to cover this resource plugin in this presentation later on. Okay, but if you are trying to access, trying to get the resource, you can certainly use a G resource like this. This is still supported, but not recommended to be used. All right. Okay. So in a few minutes, we are going to also learn the tag. GSP tags can be also used as a method calls. So here. Suppose if you have a GSP tag usage like this, that could be invoked inside inside an expression or a method call. So this is actually basic. This is the same thing. This is the same thing as this. Okay. All right. So we'll actually talk about that in a few minutes in a bit more detail. Message. So it's basically getting a message from the messages.properties file and then display. Okay. So here in this case, for each error of this book instance, you want to actually display a message, error message. And so pretty straightforward. Link. You can specify link, and then you can specify many different attributes: action, an ID, action, and the controller, and you can specify the base URL and things like that. So pretty flexible set of the attribute you can use with a link. Field value is inspect the bin which has been the subject of data binding and obtain the value of the field either from the originally submitted value or from the value of the bin's property. So it actually maintains the value that was submitted. Okay. So again, this is something that we have seen before. Okay. So here, basically, I'm trying to get the value of title field of book object instance. Okay. Or as we talked about before, you can actually invoke this tag as a method call. So this is, again, the same thing as this. Okay. Paginate, it creates next to a previous buttons and, with the pagination. So again, so here, you basically get the list of the books. And then you can paginate. Okay? And this is actually next. You can specify the value of the value of the buttons using next or previous. Okay? has errors or each error. So again, you have seen this one before. So there are multiple options. So if you say just has errors, then it will actually check all the beans in the request scope. Okay? And if there are any errors, it will display for each of those errors using each error. This one is checking just this bean. Okay? And this one is checking the beans property. Okay? So you could have a fine-grained control in terms of which bean of which scope you want to actually see whether they have any errors or not. All right, so let's do our first exercise, exercise 1. Okay, so we are going to create our the project. We're going to call it GSP app. Okay, and so I have already created. So let's create the domain class. We're going to create a domain class, student domain class with this. Okay, so we are going to create domain class, new domain class, passion student. And we are going to add 2 properties, name and age, with some constraints. Okay, so I'm going to just copy this code. Okay, so name has to be unique, and the size of the name has to be between 5 and 10 characters. All right, so now we are going to actually generate all. So we are going to generate the controller actions and the views, and we're going to actually study of those. Okay, so we are going to generate view, generate controller or views, or you can run the command generate all and jpassion and student. And then we are going to run the application. And then we are going to create a couple of students. Okay. And then we are going to actually study the GSP page. Actually, it should be GSP page. The GSP pages that were generated. So the first one that we are going to take a look at is show.gsp. Okay, so let's see whether it's done. Oh, we just generated, right? Okay. So we are going to run the application. Okay. And we are going to create a couple of students. Okay. So click this one and we'll generate. Oh, looks like I have not saved. My apology. Looks like I have to, yeah, I haven't saved the domain. So in this case, I have to regenerate have to regenerate. Okay, so generate full jpassion.com student. It will ask me whether I want to override the code or not. So we'll say all. Okay, so that is generated. So now we are going to run the code. Let me make sure that we stop the previous instance, and then we are going to run it again. Okay, let's see whether it works. Let's just refresh. Okay, that looks better. So I'm going to create a couple of students. Create and create the another one. Okay, so we have created 2 students. Okay. All right, so now we are going to take a look at the show.GSP page that were created. So I'm going to actually look into the code, looking at we are going to study the code using this hands-on lab document because I emphasized what we need to take a look. So this is the GSet tag. So here, this is an example of, let me actually talk about this one first, okay? Tags and method calls. As I said before, GSP tags could be invoked as a method call. So here, this is basically, the calling GSP tags as a method. So that is in fact the, create link to tag, and you are invoking it, and these are the attributes. Okay, so this is pretty convenient to actually use that tag as a method call. So this is another example. So that is we have learned the G message tag, right? So you can actually invoke that tag as a method call. Again, these are the attributes. Okay, all right. So that is basically what we are looking at. And so you can actually call the GSP tag as a method in any place, including controllers. So we here, we can actually use this create link to tag as a method call, and then we can convert into a string. Okay. All right. So that is basically what we are looking at. So these blue colored the notations are the usage of GSP tags as a method call. Okay. So again, so here we are using it as a method call, and that is in fact the same thing as gmessage. Okay. So here we set the entity name from this this tag. Okay, so basically we go to the messages.properties file, and if there is a student.label, we're going to get that value. If it doesn't have it, then it will use a student as a default value for entity name. So we set the entity name variable, and then we are going to display again this code. Again, you go to messages.properties file and find if there is a key for this, and if there is you're going to use that. If there is not, if there is, then you're going to use this one as an argument. Okay, so this the message of this code in the messages.properties file take an argument, and that argument is going to be this. Okay, all right. So that's an example of gmessage. Again, we have another gmessage here, and then we have create link. So we are again, there is actually a tag called the create link. Okay, and again, we are calling as a method call. And this is glink example. Okay, and this is we have the if and else. So here we are testing whether there is a flash message or not. If there is a flash message, then we display that message. Okay, and here we are testing whether student instance has a name or not. If it is, if it has a name, meaning if it is not null, then we are going to display this. If the student doesn't have a name, we don't want to actually display. So we are using if. And here the same thing for age field. Okay, and this is a form field.